Alright, so today we got a video from History Matters. Why don't countries formally declare war anymore? This is going to be a pretty interesting one. Let's get straight into this.
Historically, wars were done by a formal declaration of war. These would often come in two forms. One, via direct communication with a foreign government by delivering a letter or telegram. Or two, through a government minister asking for the passport of a foreign ambassador, thereby revoking their diplomatic immunity. But since the Second World War, there have been very few formal declarations of war and none by the major global powers. Which raises the question, why not? Why did nations stop formally declaring war? So, to give examples of why, we're going to look at two conflicts.
Times really have changed, haven't they?
The Vietnam War between the USA and North Vietnam, and the Falklands War between Britain and Argentina. Be aware that the general reasons for there not being declarations of war in these conflicts can be applied to most other conflicts too.
Maybe because countries have got pretty too powerful now, and maybe because of nuclear weapons, right? Who wants to fight with nuclear weapons, you know what I mean?
So the first major difference between the world pre and post World War II is that a new international framework existed, the United Nations. And the UN had very strict guidelines on what were legal grounds for war. So in the case of Vietnam, there was no declaration of war for several reasons. The first was that the US saw itself as aiding one side in an already ongoing civil war. It didn't recognise North Vietnamese independence and thus it had no one to declare war on. As far as the US government was concerned, it was aiding the legitimate Vietnamese government against an uprising, not fighting a war against any legitimate state. The second reason was the United Nations. There was no way that the USSR was going to approve a war against a fellow communist state. And the third reason was that domestically there was no need to. You see, normally a declaration of war was needed to implement the draft, but for America, the draft from World War II had never technically ended. After the Gulf of Tonkin incident, in which a US destroyer in the region was attacked by Vietnamese patrol boats, Congress passed the Gulf of Tonkin Resolution, which gave President Lyndon B. Johnson the right to deploy troops for combat operations without a formal declaration of war. And after the Vietnam War, the US never needed to declare war because often its conflicts were much smaller, so no need for a draft. So what about the Falklands War? Why didn't...
Wait, why? Is declaring a war, you have to like write something up? It's making out like you got like, you've legit got to write a piece of paper or write on a piece of paper that you're declaring war instead of just fighting. You know what I mean?
Margaret Thatcher declared war on Argentina in 1982 after it seized the Falkland Islands. Thatcher did actually inquire as to whether or not a declaration of war was necessary, and she was told not to. And the reasons that she was advised against such action were simple. First of all, self-defense is a legal right according to the UN, and second, it would complicate relationships with neutral countries. Neutral states aren't allowed to provide arms for belligerents. Fighting nations can't use their territories or waters for transiting war materials, and they have to detain troops who enter their lands along with many other restrictions. The two nations of particular concern were Spain and Chile. Spain was against the war but had some sympathies towards the Argentinian position. Plus, given the placement of Gibraltar, British naval ships entering Spanish waters by accident had to be detained, and if they weren't, this could jeopardise Spanish neutrality. And as for Chile, some British troops were stationed there for reconnaissance. And if Britain were to declare war, then Chile would legally have to detain those troops or be considered a co-belligerent. And as for Argentina, it...
Declaring war is so confusing, bro. So... they was able to have their ships there because they didn't declare war, even though they are like technically fighting, right? But then if they did declare war, they were, bro. That's weird. I thought if you're at war, you're at war. I didn't know declaring war was like a legal kind of like. You have to write something down, you know what I mean?
Were sourcing weapons from other countries and getting reconnaissance from the USSR, hence why a declaration of war benefited neither side. And it's these reasons which determine why many nations have no need to formally declare war anymore. Domestic powers to fight wars are largely much greater than they used to be, and wars are often small scale enough that nations don't want to deal with the hassle of formally declaring war. And yet the main reason is that if a nation doesn't formally declare war, it doesn't change its relationship with other states, meaning for them it's as if the war was never happening, meaning nothing has to change.
How?
I hope you enjoyed this episode and thank you for watching.
Right, okay, really interesting video. I'm still a little bit confused to like declaring war and just being at war, you know what I mean? Don't make sense that much because you're still at war, but like... you're not declaring it? Like, what? But really interesting video. Hopefully you guys did like that. Guys, we're getting super close to YouTube partner. So if anyone could help out with the channel and subscribe, it will really mean a lot right now. Especially if you guys are enjoying the content. I am posting daily. And I'll see you guys in the next video.